This is a very unprofessional attempt to do a video recording my attempt to upgrade my 2010 iMac, 27-inch iMac, a 27-inch iMac, and upgrade it to an SSD, an SSD drive. Here is the drive. So most of this will be, as I say, unprofessionally done, but I thought it might be interesting anyway. This is the SSD drive I bought on Amazon. I also bought this mounting bracket, supposedly to hold it in place in the computer. I also bought this thermal sensor that I haven't taken out of the package yet. And I bought over here, here's the actual drive, and I bought this thing that I attached to it last night. Okay, I bought this connector to attach to this SSD drive, and last night I attached this with the USB connector to the back of my iMac, and I cloned my drive to this. So this has become a bootable drive, 1 terabyte. So when I install this into my iMac, supposedly, if this works, when I start up the iMac after installing this, it should boot right up and have everything copied from my previous drive. I hope it works. Okay, I've put the iMac, I've disconnected all the cables, put it up here on this table, and all the I've watched several videos trying to do what I'm trying to do, or successfully doing what I'm trying to do, and most of them say you need to put a couple of big suction cups right here. This outer glass is held on by magnets, and so you're supposed to take 2 suction cups, put one here and pull, and it disconnects from the magnets. Other people say you don't need to buy suction cups, just take it off, it's held on by magnets, just pull it off. And I can picture myself pulling this from one corner and pulling, and then a big crack going from corner to corner across the middle here. So I went just now to the office supply store. They had no suction cups. I went next door to the drugstore. They had no suction cups. They said you can order them online. Well, I can't wait. Let me try it this way. I've got my knife blade, and I'm going to try to slowly and carefully pull it off from the magnets, and I hope I don't break the whole thing. If so, it will be recorded on video. Okay, I got one corner done. I'm going to slip my finger in there and hold it. I've separated it. So I'm going to kind of try to equalize the pressure. Hopefully I don't drop this thing on the floor. Just slide my hand. Okay, it feels like it's giving way here. Sliding my hand down trying to equalize. Aha, I think I got it. No suction cups necessary. Here is the glass, I got it. So proud of myself. I've set up a towel over here on another table so I can lay this down and try to keep it out of harm's way. Okay, I've set the computer up on the other table, and there are Torx screws. This is a Torx screwdriver. Torx means it's like a little star. And I put on some gloves to try to keep the thing clean. So let me try to pull these screws out. They're like 4 on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6. See, that's a problem. Some of these might not be what's holding this on. I don't want to take those off if I don't need to. And I should put up a little cup or something to keep these in. All right, here's a little lid to keep the screws in. From what I hear, you do not want to drop these. There's big strong magnets right next to them. Okay, after much work, I finally got all those little Torx screws out. At one point I thought I was going to have to get a smaller Torx screwdriver, but turns out there are some Torx screws on the top that you don't really have to unscrew. They were smaller. So this thing is about to come out, and I'm going to have to unhook some, I think around 4 cables from the back of this before I can pull the whole thing out. So let me see how this goes. Actually, that's wrong. Oh well. Doggone it. Yeah, pull this. There are 2 little Torx screws here that I thought I needed to take out, but I didn't. So let me stop this and fix this. Okay, here you see the inside of the computer after I finally got all the Torx screws out, and I disconnected the cables that were behind the inner screen. And the sad thing is that the first little bitty cable that was supposed to be the easiest one to get out was near the top. When I pulled the thing back, and you could see in there, there was one cable that had to be removed first, the tiny skinny little cable, and it was apparently the vertical sync cable having to do with the display. There were 2 little things you squeezed at the top, and it just would not come out, would not come out, would not come out. I couldn't get an angle on it, couldn't get good leverage. I took my pair of hemostats and I tried to use the top of the, to squeeze the top of the clip with the hemostats, and in so doing, looks like I had tore 2 of the wires out of their plastic holder. So when I finally got it out of there, now I have messed up the vertical sync cables. So I don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe I can get a new one of those somehow, a new component. I sure hope so. Anyway, here is the 27-inch 2010 model iMac with its screen totally removed. This is the hard drive. I've just taken 2 of the top screws out, and I'm going to see if I can get this out of here. Okay, one more little, I think this is the thermal sensor cable. Don't think I broke it. So here is the hard drive. And the reason I didn't mention why I'm changing this is the technology from 2010 and thereabouts. The hard drives are They have a spinning disc, like a record player, that seeks the data, and it's slower. The new solid state hard drives do not have any spinning discs in them, no moving parts, and it's quicker to retrieve the data. So supposedly I can make my computer go maybe 4 times faster. We will see. So I'm going to remove some of these screws so I can reuse some of the hardware from this thing to make this bracket fit. Okay, I got excited and I got ahead of myself before I started shooting any more video. This is what I have. You see, I've got it, I haven't put the glass cover on it yet, but I got it all back together, amazingly. As I was reconnecting the cables, some of them were very hard to get them lined up. The last one was the biggest cable, which was connected to the video display in the back and then into the skinny connecting thing. I don't know what it was. And I put that on there and I got it lined up and I pushed it down onto it, and I never did hear this satisfying snap or click. So I kept pushing harder, and I pushed so hard it felt like it separated from the back, meaning I thought I had totally broken it. And at that point I just said, you know, this is all or nothing. So I went ahead and put it back on, and to see if I totally ruined it, I put the power cable on and fired it up, and it's looking good. It's looking great. So we'll see what happens next. I'm going to go ahead and finish putting the Torx screws in. Well, it's been about a week now since I upgraded my hard drive on my 2010 iMac. And I know I missed a whole lot. This video is probably one of the worst. When I finish it, it'll probably be rank up there with of this kind of video, probably the worst one out there, because I skipped over so much of actually letting you see the mechanics of what I was doing. You know, when I was pulling the big internal screen off, you couldn't see a thing behind it. And of course, I've never done one of these kinds of videos. I wasn't really prepared to do that great of a job. But there are a few things that I didn't see in any of the other videos I watched that I learned, and I thought at least it would be good to tell you about them in case you want to think about doing this yourself, and to be prepared for the things that I noticed. And I wrote them down. First of all, with the 2010, and I don't know how many other years that they made it, the iMac like this, but with the glass cover, you don't need suction cups to pull it off, as many of the other videos demonstrate that you do need them. In my case, in my experience, you don't need them. You simply slip a little knife blade behind one corner to get it started, and carefully move your fingers along the opening, keeping it open along the way, along the top, and it comes off easily. And of course the bottom is in there in a groove, so it's not going to fall out from the bottom unless you let go of the top. So once you get it separated along the top, you just lift it out, and that's it. Another thing that none of the videos I saw mentioned was the size of the Torx screwdriver that you need. What you need is a D10 Torx screwdriver. There's like a D9, there's a D8, D11, and all that. They go on up in size. And the perfect fit for all the screws that you need to remove is D10. Okay, then as you remember in this video, if you watched it, the vertical sync cable on the back, after you take the big glass off the front and after you remove all the torque screws on the sides and you start to pull the internal screen forward and you look behind and there's all the cables. The vertical sync cable is a small little cable to the left as you're looking down, and it's the first one you come to, and as I broke it. I couldn't get it loose. They say that it's easy. In my case, it was not easy. It simply would not come off until I broke 2 of the wires. It's like a 4-wire cable, and I broke 2 of them getting it off. And as it turns out, it's okay. Don't worry. A lot of people broke that cable, as I found out when I did a little research, much to my relief. It's okay. I didn't even reconnect it. I thought it might do more harm than good with 2 broken wires to reconnect it. So I let it hang loose inside the computer, and I'm none the worse for it. It's been a week now. Everything is running great. So the vertical sync cable, apparently you don't need it. Some people say you need it if you're running high-speed gaming, that it might affects some aspects of your display in that case. Also, the large ribbon cable that is, as you're looking down, as you're separating the cables and unplugging and replugging them in later, it's a large ribbon cable to the right. It's probably the widest ribbon cable that you use, or that you have to disconnect and reconnect. It doesn't, in my case, it did not click when I put it back in, and I was hoping to hear that click and I didn't hear it. So in your case it might be the same. You might not hear a click, but don't keep pushing too hard the way I did. Although in my case it turned out okay. I didn't break it like I thought maybe I did. Another thing is when you're taking off the internal screen, you do not have to remove any screws across the top. Those are not holding it in. It's just the ones on the right side and the left side. And I guess that's it for what essential information that I learned the hard way on this. Hopefully I can spare you that. Also, the computer works great. Much faster than I even imagined it would, since I put the SSD hard drive in it. So I'm going to do something. Every application that formerly was so slow when it would open, it would just take forever to open things like the Photos application. And this application I'm using to make this video is iMovie, the old iMovie, and it took forever to load. I could leave the room and come back to get a cup of coffee, waiting on it to load. I'm going to do something right now while you watch that I haven't done yet. One of the slowest applications. I'm still using all the old Adobe CS5 applications, by the way, and they still work on this computer, and they do well for me, such as Illustrator and Photoshop and Premiere. Now, I have not opened Premiere yet, so let me adjust the camera a little bit, get a little closer to the screen so you can see and watch in real time. I'm going to minimize iMovie, and I'm going to attempt to open Adobe Premiere CS5, and let's see how slow or fast it's going to be. Hide Photoshop, leave them open, but I'm just hiding them. And we go to Applications, Adobe. I might have it down. No, I don't have it in the tray. Here it is. Adobe Premiere CS5. Click. Let's watch it happen. I'll say new project. Choices, okay, whatever. And more choices. That's it. That may seem kind of slow to some of you, but to me, that is maybe at least 5 or 6 times faster than it's ever opened before. That's amazing to me. And I'm going to quit it, see how fast it quits. And that's it. So this is like a revolution for me. I highly recommend it if you are in a similar situation with me on an older iMac. It'll be a while before I even feel the need to just upgrade the computer completely to a new computer now that I've got this upgrade, homemade upgrade. So I apologize for all the unprofessional aspects of this video, including part of it being done vertical, part of it being done horizontal. Very obvious indications of a person with not much experience. Hope this helps. There's a funny story associated with this computer that is just kind of amusing, that happened maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago with this computer. You see, it's in the same basic orientation that I've always kept it in, with the printer above on a higher shelf and the computer below. And I'm a watercolor painter artist, and when I finish a painting, if it's small enough, I can scan it in the scanning bed on top of the printer. Good watercolor paper, as you paint on it, gets a little bit wavy and buckled, and it's kind of thick, and it's not easy to flatten it out. I flatten it out later, but when I scan it, I haven't flattened it out yet through the process I usually use. So if you put it on the scanning bed and close the lid to scan it, unless you put weight on it, some kind of weight, or hold it down while you're scanning it, it won't scan evenly because it's kind of wavy under the scanning bed. The top of the scanning bed is not heavy enough to flatten it. So someone a long time ago, a friend of my wife, had given us a gift. She always gave us these strange gifts, and this particular gift was an African god, an idol about this big that was heavy, made of stone of some sort. It was interesting, so it's like a knick-knack to keep on a shelf just to look at. And I had taken that, and I was using that as a weight to put on top. When I would scan a painting, I would reach up there and put the African idol on top of the lid while I was scanning my paintings, to flatten out the painting underneath the lid. And when I would finish scanning a painting, I would take it into Photoshop and get the colors and the lighting just right. And I would just forget that it was up there in the scanning bed with the African idol sitting on top of it sometimes. And I should have known that that was just not the most stable thing in the world. And one night, in the middle of the night, I heard a crash. And I was so sleepy, and so I didn't really remember it till the next morning when I got up, and I went into my studio here and saw the idol on the floor, broken in several pieces, and I looked at my iMac screen, and up in the corner, big crack. It didn't go all the way across, but it was broken pretty badly up there. It was still usable the way it was, but I thought, and I didn't understand back then until this particular process where I upgraded my iMac, that this screen here, the outer glass was just an outer glass. It had no functionality other than as a protective cover, and that it could be removed easily and replaced. So I thought maybe it was, part of the LCD functionality, and I took it to the, after a while, I took it to the Apple store in town and had them fix it. I don't remember, I think it was pretty expensive. Knowing what I know now, I would have just ordered another glass myself and put it on myself. But that was, finding that in the morning, the African idol broken, falling during the night, of course. It reminded me of the story in the Bible in the book of 1 Samuel, where the Philistines had captured the Ark of the Covenant, and they put it in their temple to their pagan god, Dagon. And the next morning when they woke up, the idol had fallen and broken in front of the Ark of the Covenant. So anyway, that really has no spiritual significance, but it was just funny to me to think about the same thing kind of happened to me, although I was not worshiping the African idol. So, for whatever that's worth, that's my story.